Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into the fascinating rules that govern how businesses actually create value. We are literally looking at the building blocks of business itself by decoding the science of production. Let's get into it. We're pulling this deep dive directly from Unit 9, the Production Function 1. And this material gives us the absolute foundational economic principles of how basic inputs are kind of miraculously, when you think about it, transformed into the outputs we rely on every single day. But before we get totally lost in the weeds, let me ask you something. How much output can you really get from a set of inputs? It sounds like a super simple question, right? But this core mystery is what drives literally every major business decision. The ultimate goal here is maximizing efficiency. And today, we're going to discover exactly how businesses figure that out. So here is our plan for today. First, defining the production process. Second, the theory of production. Third, taking a look inside the mathematical production function. Fourth, distinguishing fixed versus variable inputs. Fifth, the law of variable proportions. And finally, number 6, diminishing marginal returns. We'll build this up block by block. Starting off with Section 1. Defining the production process. And as we'll see, it is way more than just manufacturing. Let's look at the actual definition. Production is the creation of different usable goods and services, essentially transforming inputs into output to create utility. Now, what's genuinely fascinating about this is that production doesn't actually require the physical conversion of raw materials into a tangible good. It's really all about the creation of utility. Just take a look at these diverse forms of production. Sure, you've got your classic manufacturing, turning raw materials into finished goods. But we also have intangible services. Think about legal advice, medical care, or, even a musician shredding a guitar solo at a concert. Then there's transportation, a coal dealer simply moving coal from a mine to a market, or a fisherman bringing their catch to the docks. They are heavily engaged in production. Even storing, wholesaling, and packaging count. The big takeaway? Whether you're providing a service, moving a product, or building a car, you are performing an act of production. Okay, moving right into Section 2, the theory of production. We're looking at the physical relations between inputs and outputs. So why does mastering this theory actually matter? Well, there are 4 key areas where this applies. First up is price theory, which links the costs of inputs to output amounts to help determine prices. Second is the theory of the firm, which helps a business figure out the exact output level that maximizes its total profits. Third is the demand for factors, that determines marginal productivity and how we price things like labor or land. And finally, the theory of distribution, which finds the aggregate macro shares of wages, profit, or rent across a whole economy. Understanding this is absolutely crucial on both a micro and macroeconomic scale. Let's hit Section 3, inside the production function. Time to look at the mathematical relationship. Here is the foundational formula. Q equals F of K and L. I know, it looks beautifully simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Let's break it down piece by piece. Okay, deciphering time. Q represents the maximum quantity of output per time unit, like say how much gold a mine produces in a month. K is the capital employed per time unit, so the heavy mining machinery. L is the labor employed, the miners themselves, and F represents the functional relationship based on current technology. This brilliantly illustrates how any business, whether you're mining gold or handcrafting wooden tables, calculates its maximum possible output for a specific period of time. Next up, Section 4, fixed versus variable inputs. We need to categorize our resources, because not all inputs behave the exact same way. First, we have to contrast primary inputs with intermediate inputs. Primary inputs are the classic factors of production provided by the economy. We're talking land, labor, capital, and enterprise. Intermediate inputs, on the other hand, are goods or services produced by others that you use up in your own process. Think of a carpenter making chairs. Their own labor and tools are primary inputs, but the wood and nails they bought from someone else, those are intermediate inputs. Next, we have to look at how quickly we can change these inputs. Fixed inputs are things whose quantity just cannot be changed immediately. Think of a massive factory building or heavy, specialized machinery. Variable inputs are those whose quantity can be changed almost instantly in response to output needs, like buying more raw materials or hiring some unskilled labor for the day. The fundamental difference here is all about the speed at which a business can adapt its resources. And that directly brings us to timeframes. In economics, a short-run period is a time frame where at least one input is fixed. If you want to expand output in the short run, you have to use more variable inputs, like paying your current workers overtime, purely because you can't build a brand new factory overnight. The long run period, however, is a time frame where absolutely all inputs are variable. The business has enough time to install entirely new productive capacity. So remember, the short run versus long run isn't about counting days or months. It is entirely about flexibility. Let's jump into Section 5, the Law of Variable Proportions, the short run rules of production. Here's the formal definition. The law of variable proportion states, as the quantity of a variable input is increased by an equal amount, keeping other inputs constant, total output increases, but after a point at a diminishing rate. Okay, that is quite a mouthful of economics jargon. So let's look at a practical example to make this abstract concept really click. Imagine a farmer's wheat production. Let's say their land is fixed at 1 hectare, and they have exactly one fixed tractor. If they hire 2 laborers, that's our variable input. They produce 200 kilograms of wheat. That's a 2-to-1 ratio of labor to fixed assets. But if they hire a 3rd laborer, changing the ratio to 3-to-1, total output bumps up to 300 kilograms. As you vary that labor against a fixed foundation, you see exactly how the input ratio changes the total production. Now, before we reveal the climax of this theory, we have to clearly define the 3 ways we measure this product. Total product, or TP, is simply the total output produced. Marginal product, or MP, is the addition to the total product by employing just 1 extra unit of variable input. And average product, or AP, is the total product divided by the total units of variable inputs. Moving right along to Section 6, Diminishing Marginal Returns. Let's explore the 3 distinct stages of production. Let's see how this builds out. In Stage 1, total product increases rapidly, and your marginal product actually peaks. But then Stage 2 hits. Total product is still rising, but slower. Why? Because marginal product starts to fall until it eventually hits 0. You're adding workers but getting less extra output from each new hire. Finally, the dreaded Stage 3. Total product actually falls because your marginal product becomes negative. You've hired so many workers for that one single tractor that they are literally just getting in each other's way. This phenomenon is known as the law of diminishing marginal returns. It operates beyond a point where marginal physical product maximizes, assuming your technology is unchanged and your variable units are homogeneous. Keep in mind, this specific law is a universal special case of our previous law of variable proportions. It applies to absolutely everything, from agriculture all the way up to modern industry. Which leaves us with a critical, provocative thought to consider today. If you keep adding variable inputs to your business, like more hours or more raw materials, without actually expanding your fixed foundation, when exactly will your marginal product turn negative? I highly encourage you to look at your own work or business through the lens of this economic law. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. I hope you found it insightful, and as always, keep exploring.